So hello there guys. So today let's pick off from the place where we stopped last week. So before starting, last week I forgot to add another file called gitignore. So just go to your server and type .gitignore. So this file basically allow whenever you push make changes to your code base here and you push to GitHub, in this file whatever the files which are mentioned here, those will be um, ignored. So usually we don't want node modules to be pushed, so we'll type here node modules, and we don't need .env also. Save this and close it. So this allows us to ignore these two files. In .env all our um, sensitive data will be stored, and node modules is a huge file. We don't want to push all of this. This should be pushed, this should be run by the server, not by the client. So you push this also in the .env file. You put the name .env file here also. So next what I'll do is, in order to as you can see here, whenever I run the server I get this message, so I don't want that. So for that you just type mongoose dot set strict query, and false. Save that. And also I changed this port to 5001, because that's usually we use 8000 or 5000 or 3000, so I changed this to 5000 here. Then next what we'll do is, let us start off by creating a deck. No, we'll start off by creating a models for our schema. So under source directory, make another folder called model, and we'll create a file called let's say phonebook.ts. Okay, so here we'll import mongoose, okay, and we'll also destructure schema from mongoose. This will be used to design our mongoose database. I like to think of schema as tables. So in our case we'll have two fields called category and contacts. So let's create it, phone book new schema. Okay, and let's call it category will be of type string, and contacts will be of type array, which has objects name, string, and description, string, number, which should also be a string. This will be our contact info. Okay, I save that, and we'll need to export this so that other files can read it. We'll also have to register it as a model, so phone book model, and I'll make this capital, mongoose dot models. We have to give it a name, so I'll name it as phone book, and also schema you'll have to put, so phone book. Okay, you could do this in a separate, you could separately do it, but I've done it in one line. Let's save that. Now let us create a post for actually creating that category. So if you want to create a post, what you do is you make a post request. If you want to get a request, you do a get request, and if you want to update, you do put request. So for now we'll do post, as we have to add new data. We'll go through get and put later. So we'll make that in the home page function request. Okay, so when we are using TypeScript, we could also define a type for this. So say request. This will give us a nice IntelliSense whenever we type rec or response. I'll show that response from Express. See, if I type rec dot, I get all this option. This is because I mentioned the type here. Okay, so now let us create a new model. So for that, let us create a constant called new category. Okay, I'll just make this error. And new phone book. This we are basically importing. We are creating a new object. So new phone book model, and it has a field called category, and let's say hello, and we'll also have to save this. And if we are saving it, we need actually, okay, we'll have to change this. We'll need to give it a async function. We have to mention that. So, and I'll also change this to ES6 version. I'm used to ES6, so let's make that. Okay, fine, async. So now this is a mongoose kind of thing, so you have to always save when you push new data. So new category dot save. Okay. And I'll save this. Then I'll also give a JSON response of new category, and if it's successful, I also want a status of 200. So whenever a request is successful, you give a code of 200. If it's not successful, you could give it a 400. There are many numbers for that. You could go and look it up in the docs. So let's save this, and we'll also run this. Let's say npm run dev. I should be getting a message saying connected. If not, then okay, it's getting connected. So in order to check this endpoint whether it's working, VS Code has this nice little extension called thunderclient. So if you go to extensions here and just type thunderclient, you could also be using Postman, but I like using thunderclient because it's embedded to VS Code. So yeah, this one. If you install it, it'll just appear here. So let's go to thunderclient. Just click here. This is one of my previous ones. Okay, so it'll be in port 5001, and I'll just okay. As a post request, for now I'll send that and see what happens. Okay, so it's created one hello for me. Now if I go back to Atla database and I'll reload this. Okay, so it's created a new data table for me, phone book, and it also has a message hello, which I mentioned, here, not here, hello. But we don't want it to be just one string. We need this, whatever the user mentions in the front end, that should be what saved to the new category, right? So for that, what we do is the request object here contains a method called body. So from the client, we could make a post request, and we could attach that data to the request.body. So that's what we're doing here. So let us first destructure the body. So it'll be called category from request dot body. Okay. So this category comes from the body and we destructure it. You could also do something like rec.body.category. This also works fine, but I like destructuring, that's why I'll go with that. I destructure category and I attach category here. Category. Okay, and I save that. Now let us go back to thunderclient, and if you go to the body here and just create a JSON file, a JSON object called category, and okay, this also should be in double quotes. Okay, and I say hello from thunderclient, and I save that, and I make another post request. Okay, so we got an error. Let's see what that says. Rec.body. Okay, so this is because whenever we use Express, it comes with the bare bones features. So in order to mention that, in order to allow JSON objects to be passed in Express, you'll have to explicitly mention that. So in order to explicitly mention, what I do is app.use, and I just type express.json. So this tells Express that JSON can be used, JSON objects can be utilized. So now let us check again. I send it and I get that message, hello from thunderclient. If I go back to my Mongo Atla, I'll expand this, and this should be a refresh one. Yeah, refresh it. It comes up here. Okay, that's good. Hello from thunderclient. So that's working. This endpoint is working. So for this project, we'll be following agile approach. So we'll build one endpoint. We'll build one endpoint, and then we'll go in the client side of things and build the client interface for that. So now, since we've created the post method, we'll make a UI in the client side. So let's go to the client. So the source app.tsx, I've already discarded all that. Let me make a new instance here. Seed into client, npm run dev. Once it's running, I'll go to this port. Let's see what comes up here. Okay, hello. That's good. Let me clear all this up. We don't need that. Index.css. Okay, we don't need this file actually. Move it to trash. app.tsx. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay then. So let's make a new folder called components here. Components, and let's make a new file inside that called, let's say, add category, category.tsx. Okay, and rafc. So I've got this extension called React Redux snippets. This one. If you install this, you will get all this short forms for writing all this boilerplate code. So I've created a new component called AddCategories, and I'll import it here. We don't need this right now. Add category, import that, and save this. Okay, so it's come here. So let's start by building the UI here. So this will be a div. Inside the div we'll have a form. We don't need actions, and inside the form we'll have that image which we saw, image, and in image we'll also have a header called contact book. Okay, and we'll have another div for the input, and we'll need a button also. Button called AddCategories. Let's see how it looks. Okay. And contact. Okay, fine. Just come up here. Next, what we'll do is, okay, for now that's enough. We'll just style this a little bit. So, let me think how I'll progress. Let's go to index.css. For the body, I'll put a background color of hash 2f 2f 2f. I think that's the color. Save that. What if I do 2 again? So it's 2f 2f 2f. That's fine. Now let's go back here. We'll start coloring on it off. So class name. So I want the max width of 5 pixel. Okay, so it'll always be of this. So 5 pixel is basically, if you hover here, max width of 64 rem, which is 1024 pixel. It'll never go more than this. That is what we are saying here. And in order to get that IntelliSense, whenever you're coding Tailwind, there's another extension for that called Tailwind IntelliSense. I think it should be somewhere here. Okay, it's here, this one. So whenever you're using Tailwind CSS, I highly recommend this one. So this gives you that pop-up for all the classes, utility classes which are available. So yeah, so I'm using that. So max W 5 pixel. So it never goes beyond 1024 pixels. So now we want it to be centered. So for that, what you can do is mx auto. If you just type that, it centers it out. So if I expand this, it always centers it. There's always an equal margin on the left and right side. So that's what that class does, mx auto. So next what we'll do is, let's make a class name here. Class name space, no, I'll go inside first. So for this image, let's go to Google and just take an image. Images. For now, this one is fine. I might change this later on. Just for now, let me copy this. I'll change this later. You guys can check the repository which I'll be linking down. You can just take the link from there. So just for now, I'll just save this and see how it comes up. Okay, that's fine. Let's style this also. Class name, height of 20, W of 20, and margin right of 2, and we'll slightly rotate it as well. Rotate. First, let me save this and show you how it looks. Okay, so this I want it to be slightly tilted. So for that, there's a class in Tailwind called rotate. Rotate 12 degrees, and I want, see if I save this, it rotates it here, but I want it to be in the opposite direction. So you could just give it a negative value, it goes in the opposite value. Actually, you know what, I'll change this image to the one which we use. So I'll just open that one. Let me go, what is this one? Yeah, this is the link. Let me copy this out. Is that and save. Okay, that's much better. So we've gotten the image ready. We don't need that now. Okay, So next, let's style the heading. So class name of text to Excel. The font size, I want it to be text to white. Save it. And if you wanted another color, you could just type text to red. And if I press Control Space, see, you have all these different shades of red. 100, 200, 300. So for now, for this one, I'll just use text white. Text white, and I want a margin y, which means the y-axis of 2 rem. So it spaces accordingly. After y, there's another class which I really like using, which is called tracking. So this actually, if you see, if I save this, it configures the space between the letters. So tracking, it has a nice little look to it. Next, I'll give text center, and I save that. So it's come up in the center. See how it's so easy building the UI with Tailwind CSS, makes things so much more faster. So next, let us style this one. So class name flex on item center. This is straightforward. And let's say flex item center, and let's go with the input now. So we'll give a placeholder of add category. Save that. Okay, and give now style it. So padding of 2 makes it bigger. Okay, rounded corners I need, so rounded LG. And so as you can see here, whenever I click, there's an outline here. I don't want that. So if you don't want that, what you do is, there's another class called outline none, if I'm correct. If I save that, now you can see there's no outline here. So outline none, and when it's in focus, I want an outline of yellow 500. Let's check that out. Yes, it's working. Next, let's style the button. So class name of padding of 2, make it bigger. Let's give a BG of orange, shade of 400. Save that. Okay, I want rounded corners, so rounded LG, and yeah, that's perfect. So now what I could do is, actually, you know what, we don't need flex, it's already aligned, it's already. So there's a class called space x2 in Tailwind CSS. So that basically gives a spacing for each of the elements inside the div. So there will be a spacing of 2 rem for input and 2 rem for button, both left and right side, and we'll center it. So text center. Okay, so it's come up in the center. Now let us center this also, the image. So for that, we will go here and just type space x2, space x2. Okay, and padding of 10, flex item center, and the columns, flex column. Okay, so everything came from the center. Now let us actually start coding to track the data here. So so let me make a state for that. So use state snippet, and I'll have to import this. No, actually, first I need to import that. Have to destructure that from state. Okay. Now let us do it. Use snippet. Okay, I'll call it name, or I'll call it category. That's better. Category. Set category and be a string. I'll save that. Okay. Now let us go to the input here, and I want to track that. So on change e and set category to e dot target dot value. If I save that and I open my DevTools, so this is one of the extension for Chrome, which is called Component. I think it's called React Developer Tools. So in that it shows you what the components are, what the state is. So it makes it easier. So if I type something here, so this is the state. And I type something here, it comes up here. You type something, okay, yeah, it comes up. But this is not actually mapped. This state is not mapped to this input field. You can see that here. If I type something here and I press enter, nothing comes up here. This means that it's not mapped here. So in order to actually get the value here, there's another attribute in the input field called value. So if I mention this as category, and I save that, now it comes up here. See, if I type something, say hello, hello, and I click enter, it comes up here. So that means it's tracking the state according to how we want. So that's also done. So next, let us create a, let's see, how do I want to do this? Okay, let's create an on submit, and I'll just call it as handle submit. Okay, we haven't created that, so let's create that. Const handle submit. So in order to prevent the page from refreshing, give a e, and the TypeScript wants me to define the type, so form event, it will be from React. Okay, e dot prevent default, and if I just type in, let's say CLG, give me the category. So if you want the type, you could just go here, just type e, do something like that, and you'll get the type here. Okay, so that's how you can get the type. Okay, now let us see whether it's actually working. If I go to console log, delete all this, and I add category, it comes up here. So now we can successfully get the value. Let us actually create a, what do you say, the fetch. Let's make the call now. So for that, const new category, this should be an async function, async, and let's make an await here, fetch, what is it called, HTTP. We'll have to make a HTTP :// localhost 5001, if I'm correct. Okay, and we'll send an object also there. Okay, so we have to define a method. So method will be of type post, and we have to define a body JSON. We have to stringify it. So whenever you're sending data, you'll have to stringify it, and let's say category. Okay, then let us give a headers. Yeah. So if you want this, you could go, if you want to read up on the docs, We just go, okay. This is fetch API, fetch API. So the fetch API. So if you read the docs, they mention it here. Let's see. So this is for post, I think. So fetch here. So all of the, the information is given here. So when you're when you're sending data as body, you'll have to give it headers also, which is content type application JSON. Copy that and paste that. We don't need the comments. So I forgot to put this while building this. I forgot to put this, and I was getting an error. So okay, so once that's done, let's actually const. Let's get the value. So new category, and it can be. No, actually, I'll change the name to category response. That's fine. That's better. New category response dot I want it in JSON. Okay. This is of promise, so we'll also have to await it. Await. And let's console log out the new category, and I'll save that. Now let us try whether everything works properly. So let me type in something. If I go to the network tab here, okay, it should come up here, and then I'll say hello from client, and I'll add it. It didn't come here. Let me see what the problem is. Is it refreshing? Okay, it's refreshing. So it's refreshing because I think I messed up on the it's HTML form element. Find the generic HTML form element. No, still doing that. Okay, I get it. I forgot to call it e.prevent default. Now it should not do anything. Okay, fine. Let's go to networks again. Clear this out. Hello. And I paste it. Okay. I got an error. Let me see what the problem is. Request a payload. Strange. //5000. Okay, I think it's because of cause error. There's a it's given here cause missing. So whenever, as I said before, Express is bare bones, so we'll have to install another package called cores. So if you go here, so this basically says from where the data can be sent. So if you mention this, like let me first install it, then it goes step by step. So not in the phone, in the server. So cd into server. I install npm icores. If I scroll down, okay, it's installed. Let me import that. So cores, I probably have to install the type as well, since we're using TypeScript. So if I hover here, npm the type, and let me go here and install the types. So once that's done, these dots should go away. Okay, it's gone. So then we'll use this app dot use course. Okay, and I'll save that. So now, so course basically says what we have to whitelist the site which can make request to the server. So in this case, if I just leave it empty, it is basically star, which means everything. Any sites can make a request to the server. So if you want to actually whitelist, if you're while build time, like while you're deploying the application, you'll have to mention the domain of the site which is making request here. So since that's done, I guess it's running the server. Okay, let me try that again. Hello, I'll delete all this. Hello from client, and I'll add. Okay, so it's gone. So if I go here, request, I send category response, or the response here. So if I go back and refresh this, hello from client should be here. Okay, good, it's come up here. So with that, we've actually made our first post request from the client side. So now let us make a endpoint for actually displaying those results here. So again, let's go back to our server. So index.ts server, we are in the server. Let's copy this out and I'll paste it here. Instead of post, this time we need to get the request. So let's make a get request. So after that, we don't need all this. Let's say const new category. Probably should rename that to something more meaningful. So await phone book model dot find. So this basically finds all the categories in the phone book model. So then let's give a rest.json of new category dot. I'll save that. Now let us go to thunderclient again. So instead of this, we'll make a get request. Go here, get and send. Okay, so we are getting all of the data here, so that endpoint is working. Conversely, you could also do something like, there's another function called app.root, something like this, and I think it was dot get. Okay, and you could just copy this out. Copy this out and paste it here. Okay, and dot post, do the same thing here. Copy this out and paste it here. So you could go either method. You could individually go for app.post, app.get, or if the name of the path is the same, you could go get. If I just save this, okay, put your formats it for me. So you could also do it this way. Either way works fine, but I like doing it this way. So after saving that, let me head over to my add category. It's actually, let's create it here itself. So we'll have to first get the data. So in order to get the data, we'll have to make a fetch request. Hmm. So to make a fetch request, let's create a use effect. Okay. So let's call it const fetch category, and actually this will be a function async sync. Okay, now let us call the response res categories from, we'll have to await this, and let's call it fetch request. Okay, misspell that. FETCH, fetch category, fetch, and we'll fetch it from here. Okay, so this should be string. It's fine. Then let us get the let's call this a response, and it's called categories, await it and get it from responses. Okay, and let us, for now, let us console log it. Let's see what's inside it. No. We'll create another state for this. Use state snippet categories. This will be an array. Save that, and I'll set this here. Set categories plus categories. Save that. Then just to see whether things are working, console log here categories. Yeah, I almost forgot. So whenever you're making a use effect, if you don't mention the dependencies here, this use effect will keep on running. So that will dramatically reduce our performance of our site. So in order to do that, if you give it an empty dependency here, it only runs once. This thing, and this use effect runs once. So here I also want to call the fetch categories. If I save that and I see the console, yeah, I'm getting the data here. Okay, that's good. So let us clean up this a little bit. So we don't want to keep on making keep on writing this entire domain name here. So in our .env file, let us actually copy this out. So where Vite actually, no, Vite doesn't give us, we'll have to make one. Okay, never mind. We'll have to create a .env file. Yeah, press enter, and fetch it Vite URL http://localhost 5001. Okay, I save that. So if you head over to Vite's env variable, Vite's page for env variable, they mention it. Like you'll have to prefix it with Vite for the client to actually know that it's a URL. So you'll have to prefix it with the Vite. So it's mentioned here. If you scroll down and read it in their docs, it's mentioned there. So you'll have to prefix it with Vite for it to be seen by the server. Sorry, the client. So since I've given it the name Vite URL, let's actually go back here make a new file called config.ts. We call it as base URL, and I'll use that env variable by import.meta.env.read URL. So we'll have to export this const. Okay, so that's done. I think I incorrectly spelled it. Yeah, go here, back, and I'll paste this here. Paste that, save that. Now let us go back to our app and add category, and we'll replace this with that. So now template literal, this should have a $, base URL. Copy this. So now we don't have to type the entire thing, we just have to call base URL. Okay, and I'll save that. Let's see what happens. If I open the DevTools, yeah, I'm getting everything. Let me post again. Added. Okay, that also is done. So everything is working properly. We don't need to cancel all this anymore. Okay, so now let us display the categories. So let me just place this properly. Let's add it somewhere. Let's add it here. So inside a div, we'll make a new component called, no, let's traverse through it. Categories dot category and we'll make a new component called category. Okay, so before that, let us make a, actually no, let's first create a component so that the errors go away. New file category .tsx, enter RAFC, and I'll import this. So now all the errors are gone. So before that, let us make a type for this type definition. So under source, we make a file called typings.t.ts. So this is where all our types goes for category. So let us create a, don't need export type, let us call it type t category. It will have, let's see, we'll have a category of type string. It will also have a contact, should be of contact. So we'll create this type now, type t contact. Let's go head over back to our index dot not t. Let's see our models, how it looks, and accordingly we'll make the file. So contacts will have a name, description, number. Let's go back to typings. Name will be a string. Description will have will be a string, and phone will also be a string, and I'll save that. Okay, so let's clear all this out. Go to add category, now I should be getting a IntelliSense for that. So easy, whenever you're mapping through something in React, you always have to give it something called a key. So this tells React like what to render, what changes are being made in the browser. So category dot id. Okay, it's not coming for some reason. Okay, yeah, it is because I have not mentioned it here. Categories will be of type T, category will be of array type. Now let's go back here. So there should be an ID as well. Yeah, there's also an ID. So if I go back, it gives me an ID back. So if I go here, ID will also be a string. This will be of, okay, this will be of underscore ID. Underscore ID will be of type string. Contact will also have a string. It will also have an ID. What I was saying. Okay. So now if I underscore ID, it should come. Yeah. Now let us pass in the data. So category ID will pass in categories ID. Category dot, I get that IntelliSense ID. Then we'll pass in category dot category, and last contacts category dot contact. Okay, so everything is there. We are getting an error because you're not mentioning it here, so we'll have to create a type for the props. So props category ID will be of type string. Category will be of type string, and contact, it is contacts plural. Yeah, contacts will be of type T. Contact will be of array type. Now destructure it here. Category ID, category, and contact props. So with that, all our error is gone. We're not getting any error. So now let us start rendering it out. So inside the div we'll have a h1, will be category, and in h1 we'll have a div, we'll have a p tag. This will eventually give us the contacts, the length of the contact. So for now let's just give 0, or let's actually give it contact dot length. As this is an array type, I'm using the length property here. So then these two, I think we'll need another, we'll need a icon here. So have I already installed React icons? No, I haven't. So you'll have to install a package called React icons. This gives us a bunch of beautiful icons. So here let us go to our client. So cd into client. Okay, and let us install npm i react icons. Okay, so let us go here to the site. Let us type user. You get a bunch of these cool icons. So let's choose one. Let's choose this one, fa user alt. We'll import it. React icons fa. So since this has an initial fa, you'll have to give it the folder fa. If it was something like say bi, you would have put bi here. Okay, so now let us use that fa user alt. Save that. Let's see what comes up. Okay. Ooh, so many errors. Contacts is undefined. Fine. I think that's because we don't, our data which is coming in, we don't have it yet. So we'll define this later. For now, let's give it as 0. Fine. We'll create this later. So next, let's make we'll style this. So class name, let's say bg transparent, gives a transparent background, give a border, give a p2, padding of 2, rounded corners. Okay. Flex column, and space in the y-axis of 4. So all the child will have all these child inside will have a spacing of 4 rem. Oh, how much is it? Yeah, some amount of space. So once that's done, okay, we don't want it this way. We want it to be rendered out side by side. So for that, we'll have to go back to add categories. Have to mention it here. So let's make it a grid. It will have column of 4. So grid col 4. We need 4 columns, and we'll have, okay, first let me show how it comes up here. What's happening? Is it running? Okay, it's still grid calls for category. Strange. It shouldn't be like that. Grid call for. Okay, this should be, I think, grid calls for. Okay. Now it's being rendered out here, and I need a gap. So you could just call the utility class gap of 4. Let's say 2. Now it has a gap of 2. Okay. Let's go back here and style out the remainder. Okay, let's go with this. We need a font bold. This is the weight of the fonts, bold. Text size of the text should be text 2XL and 2XL. We need the color to be yellow of 500. We will also center the text and capitalize it. Capitalize, and save that. Okay, much better. Then let us style this here. We want this to be side by side, so flex item center. Okay, and space x, so all the child components will have spacing around them, space x of 2. Okay, then this also. Be text yellow 500. Okay, then let's make a form here. Since eventually we'll have a delete functionality, so we'll make a form here. We'll have a link also. For now, let's keep it as A. Now actually let us install the React router DOM. React router DOM, and I install it. Okay, so now I can just take in the link from React router DOM and click view, type in view, sorry. It will link me to, eventually it will link me to category and category ID. Category dot, I think, yeah, just category ID, because I'm in. So this will save that. What happened? Let me check the DevTools. Okay, this is basically because I haven't brought it yet. So let's go to main.tsx, go to React router DOM. If I go to their home page, okay. So recently React router DOM made changes to the way they use there. So this is a bit different. Let's copy this out, bring it in the main root, call this okay, and I need this, and this should render out, the slash page should render out, and I save that. So now I think that error should have gone. Yeah, it's gone. So let us go back to category. We'll style this out. Class name, padding of 2, pg of green, 500, rounded corners, okay, and flex. So flex one basically says to take up all the space which is available to it, similar to as flex grow in CSS. Center. Okay, so if I'm calling flex grow, I'll also have to mention flex here, space x2 and empty auto, AUT. Cool. Once that's done, let us make a button here. Button. We'll call it delete. We'll have a padding of 2, pg red of 500, rounded corners, and flex 1. Okay. That's fine. I think that's good enough. These are not aligned properly. Let me check. Empty auto, padding of 2. Okay, maybe that's because of these have 2 lines. Okay, for now that's done. Let's check whether everything works properly. So I'll create a category called say Django add category, and if I refresh the page, it comes up here. So we don't want that, right? We want it to, whenever I type something like say HH and I click add category, it should pop up here. So for that we have to optimistically render it, a technique called optimistic render. So in order to do that, we'll be doing that next week, because we'll have to be using something called as state management using context API, and that needs that's a whole another concept. So I'll keep that in another video so that it is easier. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.